What's up, everybody? Tony Beats Guy here. Let's talk about WWE 2K15. Let's talk about WWE games. Let's talk about video games in general, and let's talk about where the industry's at. And one thing in specifically that we're really going to touch on is realism versus fun, and that sort of concept when we're talking about video games in general. Now, I know that I love playing the WWE games. It's the main thing that is on my YouTube channel. It's what makes me a living, how I'm able to afford to eat every week, and how I can survive. So I'm not dissing on the WWE games, but I am going to say some things that are on my mind and talk about the state of wrestling games, the state of WWE games, and more specifically, like I said, realism in video games, you know, the next gen, the current gen, whatever you want to call it, graphics, versus actually having fun in a wrestling game and how it's all going to work out. First off, I want to take a little time warp. Let's go back in time. Back in time, WWE had a game for the N64. It was known as WWF. No Mercy. Games that came before that were WCW NWO World Tour, then WCW NWO Revenge, then WrestleMania 2000, and then WWF No Mercy. Now there was Japanese with Virtual Pro Wrestling and Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, but those were only in Japan, not in the USA. So we're strictly talking about the WWE games, WCW over to WWE. So those games were made, and as those games were being made, No Mercy in specific, WWF released SmackDown for the PlayStation 1 at the exact time. So we had SmackDown the same year that we had No Mercy. It all happened in the year 2000. And this was a very, very pivotal time in the WWE games because No Mercy is touted as one of the best games in WWE history. People still mod that today. There are WWF Legends mod that I think came out about a year ago, which is really amazing to see, and the gameplay is awesome, the controls are great, the game is fluid, and we have SmackDown series that came out. Now, I don't know what went down and how it all played out, but the AKI engine with No Mercy is no longer a WWE Games thing, and they decided to opt with the PlayStation and the SmackDown series. So instead of having the WWF No Mercy series, and then we were going to get Backlash, we actually got SmackDown, SmackDown 2, SmackDown Just Bring It, SmackDown Know Your Role, SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. All those games came out, and we went with Ukes as the official engine for the game. Now, the problem I have with Ukes, and it's not Ukes in specific, I think it's just the direction of the games. No Mercy was is a good... Here, let me put it this way. No Mercy was how wrestling games should have advanced. They took on what was great about the last series and made it even better. Now, I think that SmackDown has tried to do that, but they always seem to change things for better or for worse. They did tag team wrestling. Remember that one? I think that was SmackDown versus Raw 2011, 2010. I can't remember which one it was, but they're like, maybe it was 2009. They're like, tag team wrestling is now a thing. And then they're like, fighting styles. Now we're hardcore fighting styles. Oh, well, we're going to change to the analog stick because it's going to be better. Now we're going to change to the face buttons because that's going to be better. And it's like they just constantly change and constantly make it different where the game is not progressed in the right direction. Whereas the No Mercy, you can see this slow transition from WWF. Well, let's go back. WCW NWO World Tour to No Mercy, and the progression was a slow, great progression. The gameplay was awesome, and that's the way it goes. Now, some people are going to say I'm stuck in my ways. I'm just a nostalgia junkie. I'm just looking back into the old days. But no, let's take a look and look really deep into the game and really analyze it, because that's what I want to look at. I want to look at the realism versus the fun. And this year, they're going for a more realistic take on the games. They want the great graphics. I'm all for that. I like the idea of new graphics. I like the idea of games looking great, as real as we can possibly make it look. But there's a point where you have to realize that we can't totally go into a 100% realistic game. They want to add a new grappling system where you have to chain grapple, you have to do a quick time event when you start the match, you do all this crazy stuff. And yes, I think it's kind of a cool idea, but I don't know that I'm going to like it. What if I just want to go into a match and start off brawling? Can I do that? I don't know that I can. They make it seem like you can, but I'm not sure that you can. And the thing that kind of is coming to the point where I'm not really liking is the stamina. I remember back in the old SmackDown game, I can't remember what it was, and this is going to be sort of off memory here, where you would run and then your guy would go brrr and he'd fall down. That's not the kind of game I want. I know it may not be the most realistic thing where you will get tired if you're in a game running around all the time, but that's what you get. This is a wrestling game. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be one of those games that you can pick up and have fun with. I know getting tired is a thing that sucks, but I don't want to have to hold the select button like you did in that game to build up your stamina. I hope that they leave the option for you to turn it off and turn it on, because that's the kind of game that I want to play. I feel like there should be 2 different modes when it comes to a wrestling game, and that's really how it should be, is 2 different modes in a wrestling game. You have the simulation mode, and then you have the arcade mode. That is how I would build a game if I was making one. Simulation mode, where it's realism. You have the stamina, you have all the grappling, you have all that stuff. And then arcade mode, where you just run around, beat the crap out of each other, and have a good time. Pick up the game and just play it and do the crazy spots that you want to do. Do all the fun stuff, and that's the game that I want to play, the arcade game. And then the simulation game, because that's how it should be, because that's how wrestling is. You know, some people play for simulation, some people play for fun, and that's the way that I'm thinking. Because I don't want to dismiss what 2K Visual Concepts Ukes is trying to do with the game. I am optimistic and I want this game to be good. So whatever I'm saying right now is, yes, I'm kind of bashing the game, but not really, because I want to see what they're going to do. I'm not going to outrule anything they can do, because I haven't actually played it. I haven't seen it. I'm just going off of what I'm reading. And we're going to say that we need to take a step back. We need to pop the brakes on, and we need to go, okay, this isn't going to be the worst game. We'll wait and see what happens. Now, I want to talk about Realism versus Fun, and thank you, dog, for making a lot of noise while I'm talking here. But Realism versus Fun, that goes back to what I was talking about with simulation versus arcade. Now, realism is a good feature. If you want to have an awesome, realistic simulation style match, that is awesome, because there are times where I just want to watch matches and I just want to sim it, and I don't want to know how it's going to end. It's always different. There's so many different moves. It can play out any way. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to watch a match and play it and commentate on it and have a good time and just go, wow, that's very, very good. That looks like a WWE match on television, and that's the kind of game I want. But when you're playing, I don't want to have to get tired. I don't want to have to recharge my batteries while I'm running around. I don't want to have to do all these quick time events with grapples and stuff that makes it more difficult. But I do want to have some sort of realism in there. And that's where the dilemma comes in, where you get to realism versus fun. And I have to pose this question. Is it not fun if the game is too realistic? And I've always asked that question. I've always thought about that in my head, and it's just a very, very hard question to answer. Is it not fun if the game is too realistic? I don't know. A wrestling game has so many different aspects. You think about wrestling, it is different than anything else. It's not a sport, and it's not solely entertainment. It's sports entertainment. I know. You guys are probably thinking, wow, how long did it take you to think of that? Well, not very long. Let me tell you. The game has to be a mix of the entertainment aspect with the creative stories, creator wrestler, all that fun stuff, which will be in the game. And then it has to be the sport, which has the realism fighting and all that good stuff. What I want to see, though, is some outlandish stuff. Remember back in WWF Warzone? Yes, as bad as that game was, and Attitude Era, they had Beans mode and Big Head mode and stuff like that. Stuff that's crazy and stupid and fun and off the wall. That's the kind of stuff I want in a game. Yes, we are going for a realistic game, but there's things that just made it fun. You look at WWE All-Stars. You look at that game right off the core, you're like, man, that might not be the game for me. When you play it, it's so over the top that it's super fun. You can reverse every move, and it's just fluid when you play it. And, you know, that game's not very realistic, but it's a whole lot of fun. I love playing WWE All-Stars. It's so much fun, and it's not realistic at all. Nothing is realistic about that game. It's all over-exaggerated, and you uppercut people, and they bounce off the ring apron, and you can catch them and put them in a move, and they can reverse that move into another move, and that's what I like about it, and it's so much fun. It's the thing about realism versus fun. I love what they're doing with the games now. I love the direction they're going. It's just a really tough question to answer, and I don't really know what to say about this game, what my final thoughts are, but I did want to pose that question to you guys. Would you rather have realistic simulation style game or fun? I mean, not saying that you can't have fun, but even if you're outlandish, arcadey, off the wall kind of game, you can still have a fun game. And I feel like they need an arcade mode and they need a simulation mode, and both of those need to come together into one game. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below about Realism versus Fun. What do you want to see in a WWE game? And do you think this year's game is going to be too realistic and not enough fun? Anyway, guys, hit that like button if you enjoyed this. Tony Pizza Guy, frag out.